as well. So without further ado, there we go. So how many of us catch ourselves saying, I know what I need to do, I just have to do it. I'll start, insert day here. I'll start Monday, I'll start tomorrow, or the whole F it, I'll just, I'll do it, after the holiday season is over kind of concept, where it doesn't really give us much to kind of go off of. And it leaves us feeling kind of as if we had failed and sets us up for future relapse. So we need to kind of rephrase and rechange our point of view and rephrasing that statement to say, I know I should be making better choices right now, but I need to break down my barriers and plan how I'm going to overcome them. And that's exactly what we're going to do today in our presentation. We're going to be focusing on some common barriers that members tend to bring to us during sessions that they wish to focus on, whether their motivation had been faltering or a lack of social support in the home or friends-wise, or even in the workplace where there are some people or interactions that can be more triggering, social splurges, knowledge gaps, confidence in the kitchen, night shifts, home renovations, you name it, the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, we'll go over just in general when we come to a barrier, how do we break them down? So the number one most common one we tend to see is lack of social support, or perceived lack of social support, we can say. So social support is that perception that one has care or assistance available from people in one's social circle. This can be our coworkers, our friends from, say, church, the gym, golf outings, Hibernians, etc. Family, of course, most importantly, are those in our home directly with us. So dinner time, an example, often members will say, hey, I've been trying to cook healthier, but my family, there's some more pickier eaters and they don't like salmon, or they don't like vegetables, or they don't like the leaner proteins. And I'm struggling to kind of come up with a compromise with them. So a solution that we can come towards with our loved ones is saying, let's take 15 minutes aside. And if you think about it, the time that takes to when the moment occurs, when we're like, oh, what are we trying to eat, or what are we trying to focus in on, that 15 minutes on the back end sounds like a lot, but really saves us more time later in the week to kind of sit and review some recipe resources. You could utilize ours, of course, and go through and say, oh, will you eat this? Do you like this? What if we kind of rephrase it a different way? So looking at different interchangeable parts in the meal. So if it's the protein that someone doesn't really like so much, can we grill up a bunch of chicken or turkey or a steak for that person and then have what we need for ourselves and kind of cook our proteins either in bulk, so we're not cooking two in the same meal, for example, but say Monday cook steak, Tuesday cooked, say, salmon, right? So the leftovers from Monday can go for that person on Tuesday, for example. Also leftovers for lunch. Cooking together, of course, is bonding. We can make it fun too, enjoyable, and then they're working on their share of the meal and then you're working on your share. If a member doesn't like a certain component of the meal, like for example, vegetables, that's fine. We're not here to try to change them. If they want to change and focus on eating a little mindfully, that's something that they have to do when they're ready. But maybe we could try to lead by example or role model. So we can have those vegetables or that salad on the table or that fresh fruit bowl out in the house, but maybe not have as big of a portion so we don't feel like it's going to waste if the other individual is not consuming it. And of course, we should share our goals and say, hey guys, I'm really trying to focus on my health here. I'm really trying to focus on, you can say decreasing our waist circumference, or simply just saying, I want to be a little healthier today than I was yesterday. And by cooking this way, it's going to be a means of getting there. And when we run into these struggles together, I feel like it detracts me from my goal. So good communication is always important. If people don't know how you feel, you can't assume someone to know how you're feeling if you don't say it. And of course, there's always an art to the phrasing. So if you're running into barriers like this and how to phrase it, we're always here for you. And that's going to be something common that I'm bringing up is some members feel that they need to always book an appointment to run things by us. If you've got random questions, Katie and I are both a phone call away. Even if you leave it as a voicemail, we'll call you back or we'll email you. We'll give you an answer to that question. Next, in terms of social support, members often try to team up with their significant others and exercise together. That's awesome, have a buddy system, but sometimes the buddy system can cause some issues if, say, members are planning to exercise, for example, and they run into the barrier of their significant other comes home from work and they're a little too tired to go for that walk around the block, or for some reason they just keep, not adhering to the time or the parameters that you guys are setting to work in together. You can either A, say, you know what, I'm not going to get this done. No one's going to do this for me. I got to do it for myself. I'm going to go without them. And then if they want to come some days, that's great. If they don't want to come, I wish they were there, but that it's also great because I'm still moving. No one's going to achieve our goals for us. We should plan a realistic amount of days during the week on a calendar with our partner if we're really striving to keep that buddy system going. Maybe looking at each other's schedules and quite literally penciling it in like an appointment so nothing can get booked during that time. Saying, hey, okay, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 o'clock, we go for a 30-minute walk, trying to treat it as something more tangible. Where, of course, like that good communication is kind of call them out in a pleasant and nice way. Say, hey, I noticed we both have this shared goal of exercising more routinely together, but sometimes I feel that more often than not, you've been coming home really tired and not able to do this. Should we change the time of day that we're exercising? Or you don't really like the modality and maybe we could try something new and different. But of course, bringing that conversation to the table is essential, I would think. Um, and remember, we are our own vessels of change, so we can't really rely solely on others. That social support is great, but in the end, it has to come from us internal. So sometimes some members bring up issues that of furthering a need for support in the home, and sometimes it comes from doing it for the right reasons. Some members feel that they may have a significant other or a child in the home or a family member of some kind or even a friend, kind of razzing them a little bit about their health or their weight or whatnot. And that's what's motivating them to make changes. And often that is more external motivation versus internal, right? It has to come from us. It needs to be coming from our own personal desire to make some changes and looking at ways to say, hey, I just want to focus on feeling better or not feeling bloated or uncomfortable, or I want to focus on having more energy throughout the day, for example, overcoming negative comments. So sometimes some individuals project their own feelings about themselves onto others, unfortunately. And sometimes they may make negative comments to us that we're taking too much time to go and exercise or to cook, or we're not cooking the same things that they used to like. It's important to not absorb these comments or allow them to negatively influence our own positive self-talk. If weight loss is driven from negative self-talk or self-hatred, it kind of becomes punishment and it creates that unhealthy relationship with food and what we are doing. So we want to try to, again, talk it out with the individual and get a real reason for their words or their comments and see where it's coming from. But at the end of the day, to know if it's coming from jealousy or if it's coming from a genuine concern and to sort it out from there. But to get to the root of it if it's something that's really bothering you. And of course, if you're recognizing that it is jealousy, you want to kind of see why. Is it that the person is upset that you guys normally do some activities together, like going out to eat together, and they're afraid that they're losing that part of you? Or say if that individual is going to miss having that sweet snack at night, watching a movie and enjoying each other's company, that's where that jealousy is coming from. And if you can replace that with another activity or reaffirm to them that you're still the same person, you're not changing completely, you're just changing what you're consuming and your physical activity. And if they want to come join you, that's awesome, but you're not pressuring them. It has to be something that comes from them and at a point that they're ready to change. So coming up with compromises is always key. And then if you're feeling hurt or anger by this individual for those comments, or if they're not supporting you, to kind of have a new way of coping and letting that stress or anger out. Personally, I was a lacrosse goalie, so for me, I love going up to the wall and throwing the lacrosse ball nice and heavy, or going for a run, or lifting weights, or just going for a walk, or calling a friend, or playing with the dog. But coming up with some new outlets for those emotions to kind of get it out. Because sometimes if we don't get it out, it kind of builds upon us. And of course, always communication is key. Okay, so we went a little bit about self-motivation. Now looking at our words and our actions. So sometimes individuals, like I was saying, will make comments to us saying something along the lines, kind of picking at our weight loss and saying, okay, well, for example, a situation the other day that unfolded, I had a member who had his goals were to start to eat more routinely around the day, throughout the day, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then, hold on, someone's not muted. So I just want. Oh, if someone if the individual who's not muted right now could mute themselves, that would be really greatly appreciated. Thank you. Um, okay, so back to the presentation. So if we're feeling that someone's, oh, for example, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So say the member was focusing on breakfast, lunch, and dinner throughout the day, right? And they were focusing on trying to eat more vegetables. Their significant other was a little upset with them and kind of picking at them saying, hey, why are you eating red meat? You need to stop eating red meat. And to kind of talk with them and say, well, that's not my goals right now in time. This is a journey. I'm trying to focus on this right now at this time, and then I'm going to focus on that later. Some people expect others to fully embrace their own dieting culture or their own whims or wishes when you need to focus on other things because you're a different person. And sometimes saying, accepting those negative comments and saying, this is where I am, this is why I'm doing this. You shouldn't have to give someone a reason, but to say thank you for your support. And I do appreciate that you're trying to help me right now, but I need to focus on this right now, but then I will listen to what you're saying and maybe focus on that later. I'll bring it to later sessions with my dietitian. And then last but not least is if you don't have social support, to create the support that you need, whether it's looking elsewhere like other family members, other friends, coming to us. We're a phone call away. Sometimes there's Facebook groups for some individuals that if there's specific needs that there isn't a lot of individuals with those same questions or located in our geographic area, sometimes social media can be a great outlet. But to look for new outlets, sometimes engaging in a recreation league can be that nice, healthy outlet for some more social support and also physical activity. All right, so next from social support, we're moving on to social splurges, or more or less like holidays, when we go travel, when there's more of a social event, is what we mean by social splurges. So first thing first is something that we started to install on holidays with members is to kind of say one or two things that make us grateful for the event aside from the food. Like, remember what we're celebrating, remember what we're there for. Is there people that we haven't seen in a while that we want to say hi to? Are we celebrating Thanksgiving and we're focusing on gratitude, etc.? So plate power, you'll see here at the top. Plate power is more to reference like choosing that USDA My Plate, that image on the bottom with the fruits and vegetables, the proteins and the starches. Can we try to design our plate in a more balanced manner of having half our plate, a non-starchy vegetable, 1/4 a protein, and 1/4 a starch? If we could make that starch a whole grain and that protein a lean protein, booyah, right? But we're at a social splurge, so it's unlikely that we're going to be perfect, right? So we shouldn't hold ourselves to this unrealistic standard of perfect, but maybe say, okay, I can make half my plate vegetables by having a side salad. And then you know what, my protein, I'll have a burger, but I'll try to grab a whole grain bun, or even if I have it on a regular bun, at least I'm having a side of those vegetables to kind of feel full off of versus having mac and cheese to add to that burger. We can have a splurge without fully being all or nothing with our mindset. Next that we see
Can I
often
just
is,
add to plate power
yeah,
also?
yeah,
Hi, it's Katie. Also, like, you don't always have to eat the healthiest, but think about
yeah,
like if you were eating a meal sitting down, only eat what you can fit on a plate. Like, don't graze, use a plate, fill it, and then walk away. So that at least if you're
yeah,
doing the
that's
mac
what
and
I,
cheese, whatever, it doesn't really matter as much. Of course, we want you to eat healthy, but only fill what's on your plate and then walk away because that's going to save you from standing over the charcuterie board and having, more meat and cheese than you normally would have if you were eating a real meal. So just throwing
it's,
that in there too.
and what I wanted to get to as well is like, look at where you're hanging out. Like, I know my family, everyone wants to hang out in the kitchen and cluster in the kitchen by around all the food. If we look at our environment for the outing, Like even if we're at the firehouse or the EMS squad or whatnot, if all the food's in the kitchen, we can take our plate, enjoy it, save our plate, but go out of the kitchen, go into the den or go outside with everybody else, go into the den, whatnot, but get away from just the mindless noshing. And Katie's absolutely right. Try to always have off a plate versus doing the napkin game that we all tend to try to do is eat off a napkin and then it goes away and food choice is not tangible. Next is of course, like aiming for proteins that swim, fly, or grow from the ground if we can. Then bring your own healthy option, BYOHO. So if you know you're going to a place that like you're going to your brother-in-law's house and your brother-in-law tends to always have less optimal choices and you guys are tasked with bringing something, bring a bottle of wine and bring like a nice, like say it's a barbecue, like a quinoa salad with some chickpeas and some bell peppers in there and like a nice dressing, but something that you know you can kind of lean on at least to optimize that plate a little bit. Then I skipped over the second bullet on purpose to lead us to this one. So some members tend to save calories and skip meals beforehand. So for example, like Thanksgiving, some members I find will skip breakfast and like feel this need to, purge at the gym and, exercise intensely to as a way of like earning their calories or saving their calories. This actually can cause us to gain more weight as we end up eating more actually in the long run. And then we feel worse for it because that large portion is a lot for our body to process. And we feel kind of bloated and it detracts from how we feel during the day of the event. So we don't want to detract from our social interactions with our loved ones. So instead, check in with your hunger and fullness and say, hey, all right, it's 80-20. I want to start to eat when I'm 20% empty, right? That first onset, that first hunger growl, right? And then that's that 4 number on the scale. Then we want to stop eating at 80%, right? That satisfied feeling, not that full feeling. And we can better do this by eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe 1 to 2 snacks throughout the day, consuming foods based on when our body tells us we're hungry. And some individuals will say they don't feel that, and that's okay. That does happen. Trying to eat in a routine pattern will help to foster more of those hunger signals because your body will get used to eating around those same times, and those signals will become stronger and stronger. Um, Post meal walk. Of course, you don't need to earn your calories or purge your calories, but it can make us feel a little bit better if we're feeling a little bloated, just to go for a nice family walk together after the meal or a walk with a friend or a dog. Practicing gratitude, like we were saying, what is one thing that we're there for, at least aside from the food, and say no to food pushing. So I'll bridge that to the next slide. So if anybody has a tough Sicilian mother like myself, or anybody in general can think of a family member who finds food as love, right? They made a dish, they really want to share it. And that's not a bad thing. But sometimes if it's a less optimal choice that you're not really happy to have at the moment, there are some different strategies of how to say no to food pushers. So simply saying no, thank you. I really appreciate your offerings, but some people don't take no as an option. So we have these other uh, phrases below that you could take a peek at. We will send you the PowerPoint, but simply saying no, thank you. I wouldn't feel so good physically if I ate any more. The food is so delicious, but if you want, give me the recipe. Or if you want, I can take a doggy bag home with me to have some more at another time when I'm not so full. But thank you so much for your help and your food. I really would love to have it. Butter them up. It's all about art of the phrasing. And at the end of the day, you got to do what's good for you, not what's good for other people all the time. It's not selfish to be focusing on your self-care right now. Next is barrier 3, time or a lack thereof. Exactly. So a lot of members, we come from this all or nothing mindset. This, if you're not giving 110%, you're not giving enough, right? And sometimes this sets us up for this all or nothing mindset, and it can set us up for failure. So it's better to have a consistent 80% of the time throughout the entire year than a perfect 100, 110%, 20% of the time, which makes us burn out. So meal prep when you can. Meal prep is a spectrum. It could be as simple as going grocery shopping as a form of meal prep, or prepping every meal or snack, which is a little unrealistic. If you could plan out a couple of meals and have a couple of snacks planned, or try to plan for when you have some cravings of what you tend to crave and choosing healthier options for that, that can start to set you up in the right direction. It can be pre-chopped or some frozen produce. That's fine. Frozen produce is actually frozen at peak ripeness. And if the food is out of season, it's almost better to buy frozen. It prevents it from going bad too. Cooking in bulk. So if you know there's certain nights of the week, like Wednesdays or the monthly meetings, or Tuesdays, Johnny has to go to football practice and cooking isn't as reasonable, we can cook in bulk or utilize the crock pot or the Instapot. But the biggest thing is to plan ahead and be honest and realistic with ourselves. There are tools. There's sometimes time is really a barrier, and we do need a little help from our community. So meal preparation companies are great, like Healthy Meals Direct, Bistro MD, Redefine Meals. And if you have further questions about that, we can always send you their information. Keep snacks packed and on hand. So if you are out and about and you're going to be going a long stretch of time without eating, even keeping like a Kind bar on hand or some Greek yogurt with some, if you want, sounds kind of funny, some peanut butter or some fruit, but having stuff prepped with you is always going to be best. So you're not running out to 7-Eleven. And to remember, it's just as easy to pull over and run into the grocery store as it is to pull over and run into 7-Eleven. The parking lot might be a little less crowded actually, and grab a quick healthy snack and you'll have more options anyway. So take 15 minutes to plan ahead for the week in advance. This could be a moment where you work with your significant other, what they also want to be eating during the week, and to jot down some ideas before going grocery shopping. And then to remember, if time is also a barrier, activity doesn't have to always be bulked all in one shot. It doesn't all have to be one 30-minute workout. If you could wake up in the morning and do a 15-minute walk, and when you get home, get in a 15-minute walk, booyah, that's 30 minutes. Or you could do, HIIT training for 15 minutes or some body weight circuits or banded circuits for 15 minutes and then walk for another 15, but spread it out. It doesn't make a difference if you do it all in one shot or not. And lastly, be kind to yourself. We have to be very realistic, but not, we have to we have to be kind to ourselves, but we also can't be fostering of an attitude saying, oh, it's just too hard, I can't do it. We can always do a little something today to make us a little healthier than we were yesterday. Next is shift work for our men and women who are working the night shift, that aren't eating our typical breakfast, lunch, dinner plan throughout the daytime. So we still want to try to keep a routine eating pattern. So often we'll see members eat dinner before they go into work or like their breakfast, and then they eat a lunch at work, a snack or two during the rest of the shift, and then they come home and have a meal and they'll go to sleep. Um, Truly assessing your hunger and when you need that meal is important, and trying to eat every 3 to 4 hours if you can. Some members switch it, so when they're sleeping during the daytime, they're not eating, of course. So it's just to mimic what we would be doing during the daytime with our food schedule when we're at work at night. So still breakfast, lunch, dinner, 1 to 2 snacks. Use caffeine wisely. Fruit will go a long way when it comes to energy. It's going to give you a healthy carbohydrate source as well as the fiber, vitamins, and minerals to give you that boost of energy, but pair with protein or healthy fat, and that will help us to carry over longer. Plenty of water. Water helps to keep us alert, awake, and energized as well. Get your household on board. Let them know what you're trying to do. Communication is key, so you don't have the kids all, loud and doing their stuff when you're trying to sleep. And then exercise, if only for 15 minutes. Something is better than nothing. Even if it's on that way to work doing a walk. And then, of course, if you're going to be doing the night shift and you're not seeing the sun so much, definitely consider vitamin D supplementation. You may want to talk to your doctor about assessing your vitamin D levels. Next is home renovation. So this goes into like meal preparation, and time is a barrier too. It's very similar, except you have to look at what you have accessible. So if the stove is out, the microwave is out, and the oven's out because it's all getting gutted, well, we can look towards our appliances like our crock pots or panini press or the grill outside to kind of get the deed done. Make a list of meals to go. We can send you a list today as well. Consider freezer bags to throw in the crock pot, like this image here. Also, pre-cut, pre-chopped foods, or doing some different meal prep services, or buying some food already pre-made, like some string beans already pre-cooked from the grocery store itself, from the hot prep area. And then prepare what you can in advance as much as possible. Next is kitchen confidence. Some of our members come to us that they don't know how to cook, and that's fair, that's fine. And we don't expect perfection overnight. So try to commit yourself to doing this new task regularly. The more we do it, the more confident we're going to feel, more things we're going to learn. Look at a great recipe book. We have options here for you if you'd like. Also, recipe websites. So, Food Network is tested and tried and true. They started having more healthy options. So just be careful with Food Network. Make sure you're going to that /healthy. They'll show you videos of how to cook, all the knife skills that are so important. So getting confident with the different cuts. There's even videos on there of just how to cut a bell pepper, for example, or how to slice up garlic. Starting with your methods can make it easier, and then varying your proteins. So you're learning how to roast, and then you can focus on roasting a chicken, roasting a turkey, for example, grilling. Grilling, I feel like most of us have down, but to vary your proteins when you're learning different methods of cooking. Then mise en place. Before you get started, just like this image, see how the food is all organized, everything that the person's going to need for whatever they're cooking in that meal, that picture. To have what you need before you start, because see it as cooking that recipe, that's the main event. That's where once it gets started, it's hard to stop. And sometimes you need to add an ingredient very quickly, quicker than anticipated. And to have it prepped and ready will save you time and save you flavor. And most importantly, keep it simple. Keep it simple, silly. Or really, the KISS stands for keep it simple, stupid. Try to choose simple recipes. We wouldn't jump in and start to make a cordon bleu if we're just learning how to cook. Start with maybe making lasagna, for example, and a healthy twist of lasagna, or and also stick with recipes at first and follow the methods they're tested in there for a reason versus going off the recipe. Last of the barriers that we're going to go into is knowledge gaps. So always look for credible resources, not your local gym rat, of course, even though they're very passionate, and they might not be speaking with fact. You can come to us. We're registered dietitians. We are held under, we are an evidence-based practice, and we have a standard of ethics that we must follow. So registered dietitians also have certain credentials, that, of course, and certain trainings that is needed to have that RD after our name. Just because someone's a nutritionist doesn't mean that they're a dietitian. However, all dietitians are nutritionists. So look for that RD after the name, or RDN. That's super crucial. Then also think twice. If someone's trying to sell you something or promise fast results, that should kind of trigger your spidey senses. Look for evidence from research, not opinion or emotions, or how a food made them feel, because all of us are different. So if a diet worked for a particular individual, that's great for them, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for us. So to kind of question things, and if something ends in .gov, .edu, or .org, it's typically going to be a more evidence-based site. Diets do work to an extent, but we got to figure out if it works for you and if it's realistic and something that you can attain for a long period of time. So come to us. We're here for you at the end of the day. If you've got questions or if you're trying to learn something new, come to us. We're here to help with those knowledge gaps. So we went through 6 main barriers that we see. First things first is to recognize a barrier. If we're having trouble, that's always the first place to start, is what are we having trouble with, right? And then we want to brainstorm strategies of how we're going to overcome those barriers. So make a list. So let's just pick one apart right now. Eating too fast. Let's say that's the barrier. So how can we fix eating too fast? Well, we can look at how we're eating during the day. So there are going to be gaps that are making us really hungry in our day that's going to put us at risk for eating quickly. Yeah, if we're going from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock without food, maybe we should add a snack in. So that's something that we can write down. Okay. And then maybe we're watching TV while we're eating. So that's another thing we could write down. That's another strategy, taking away distractors when we're eating. Then we can evaluate. So trying to choose numbers to evaluate from. So if you notice you're eating quickly, 3 out of 7 days of the week, well, it would be unrealistic to hold us to the standard of 0. So maybe trying to start with 3 and then go to 2 and then go to 1. But having some sort of a tool to measure that is helpful. And then practice makes perfect. So the more you do it, the better you're going to be, and to try to stay conscious and mindful of it, and to kind of plan for relapse, because we're all human, and what makes us human is that we're not perfect. and that's okay. No, I'm not perfect. Katie's not perfect. No one's perfect. So we want to continue to monitor and evaluate. If there are other barriers coming in the way, we can continue to break them down in this method. And then always remember, when you think about quitting, think about why you started. What's your why? Are we doing this for our health? Are we doing it for a number? Because if it's for a number, then that's extrinsic. But if we're doing it for our health, then that's something intrinsic. And if we are focusing on making non-scaled victories, by that I mean, am I eating a little bit more vegetables? Am I exercising a little more? Am I getting my portions down? Am I eating more routinely during the day? Those are non-scaled victories, right? That weight becomes a side effect because you know in your heart you're doing something good for your health and your body is feeling better. Another non-scaled victory is feeling more energized, for example, or um, feeling that our blood pressure is going down. So if you're doing good things for your health, the weight will come with it. It doesn't happen as quickly as it used to happen in the past, but to treat the weight as more of a side effect to those healthy changes that you're making to treat your body a little bit better today than it was treated yesterday. And to know it does take a few time because some time because for some of us, I'm not saying all of us, but for some of us, we've been doing this for our entire lives. So changing our eating for 1 week is not going to, magically reverse everything. And like I was saying before, perfect is the enemy of progress. So it's just how can I be a little healthier than I was yesterday? At the end of the day, that's all it's about. And mistakes are proof that you're trying. And please, guys, just never hesitate to call us if you have questions. We are here for you. Um, this is just a great image to say that every day, if you picture, this roll of paper towels. Yeah, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you're not noticing the difference, but day 84, you're starting to notice that difference. So visual progress takes time for it to manifest, but be patient, stay the course, and treat that weight as more of a side effect and continue doing things that's going to foster improved health. Does anyone have any questions?